Hi everyone. So today we're going to be looking at what's going to happen on the day of your wedding, right? So what's going to be around you? What are people generally going to be doing? Um, we're going to be looking at things like this, right? Hopefully we'll see some interesting things that could happen. Will somebody, get into a fight? Will there be some emotional, speeches? Um, will everyone just be crying at your wedding? So we'll be looking at things like this. So the way we do this is we're going to be looking at your D9 chart here, right? So your Navamsha, right? So we're going to be looking at your D9 chart to do this analysis. So more specifically, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be looking at all the planets that could go in your Lugna, because what goes in your Lugna of your D9 will give you a general tone or general idea of what's happening at your wedding, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to go through all the planets that could be in this first house of your D9, and we'll see the results that happen from there. Now, before we start with all the planets, uh, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Um, okay, so let's get started. Um, let's start with the planet Sun in your first house of your D9 chart. So you'll see when your Sun is in the first house of D9, you'll see that you'll see here your father will play a very big role in your wedding. You'll see that depending on the sign here, because the sign will change this a lot. But you'll see that your father, he'll play a big role. He'll help you out. He could help you financially depending on the signs here. For example, let's say if Sun is in the sign of Taurus, you'll see that your father will help you out a lot financially with this wedding. And he'll play a very big role in helping you get this done. Um, you'll see as well that your father will also help you with the food at your wedding here, right? But generally for Sun, your father will be very involved with this wedding. You'll see that he'll have something to say and that there will be some attention that goes to him uh, in this ceremony. The other thing as well is that what you'll see, um, something at your wedding will say the words royal or kingly, or there'll be the words like lights that appear. So you'll see that maybe that let's take this exact same situation, Sun and Taurus in Lugna here. So you'll see that um, the food that you cater from, the food that you get could be coming from a company where the name of the company will have something to do with like a royalty or kingly. So it could be like, I don't know, royal desserts or something like this, or kingly desserts, or something like that. Something that has to do with like authority or power, or um, like something to do with like kings, for example, right? So you'll see that with this. Um, you'll see as well. Um, so that's for the sun here. That's for in Taurus. Um, you'll see as well um, that let's say if the sun is in uh, answer here. So you'll see that the venue that you're going at, you'll see that near either the venue itself or nearby, maybe like the street or something, you'll see also the word. It'll say like king or royalty or something like this will appear there, right? Um, so yeah. Um, as well with this, you'll see that for you, there's going to be a lot of spotlight on you specifically, right? So it may not be like evenly split where the two of you who are getting married like will be seen often, but you'll see that like you will be taking charge and you'll be like speaking and yeah, so the emphasis will be on you during this time, you more than your spouse, unless your spouse also happens to have this combination as well. But you'll see like you'll lead the thing and you'll like you'll have a lot to say here. Um, okay, so that's sun. Let's move on to the planet Moon. So when Moon comes here, you'll see during your wedding, um, you'll see that it'll be remembered like after the wedding is done, a lot of people will remember it because so many people were either getting very emotional or people were crying or they had a lot of this emotion just built up. And you'll see that, on this day, um, let's say here, if this goes in the sign of Gemini, there will be a lot of people who give speeches on this day, and when they give the speeches, they'll be crying when saying this. Um, so you'll see even after when you talk about this like years later, you'll see everybody like they'll say, "Oh yeah, I remember." Just everybody was like crying and getting emotional, and it'll be like happy emotional, assuming there are good aspects here, right? If like Jupiter aspects this, then there'll be the happy it'll be like happy tears. We're so happy like you're getting married and it'll be like for a good sentiment, right? Um so yeah, so you'll see that it'll be very much remembered for like the emotions that are coming through here. Um you'll see as well. So let's say that Moon goes in the sign of Libra. You'll see that generally, Moon in Lugna, like in any sign really, unless Saturn, not Saturn, but you'll see that Moon here, it gives the wedding, you'll see the place will be very white. Like all your decorations will be white, your tablecloths will be like white, like chairs, like everything, it'll be very like bright white. So you'll see that. And then the other thing you'll see is that the place will look very like it'll look like a castle or it'll look like it looks like a it belongs to like a not a princess per se, but like you'll see it'll be super clean, super nice. Like people will talk about like how it was like a gorgeous place that you got married at. Like that's what they'll say, especially with this Moon in Libra. The people years later, people say like, wow, your venue was absolutely stunning and gorgeous. And people will say that like with this kind of combination, people will say that you got like the wedding of your dreams with this because it's like it's so beautifully done and so well decorated and people will say like wow, this is like a really great place that you chose. The other thing here, so Moon, so let's say if Moon comes into Taurus, you'll see that as well. Um, People will definitely talk about the food on this day. People will absolutely love the food that you are serving on this day. If if Rahu aspects this combination, you'll see you'll have very weird or different like odd food choices. Let's say that you're like Indian, for example, and this is your wedding. If Rahu aspects this combination, maybe at your wedding you'll have like Chinese food or something, or you'll have like food that's outside of your culture, or that nobody expected. But still, people will compliment and be like, "Oh wow, we didn't expect you to have this food, but it turned out really great. Like everybody loves it, right?" So that's what people will say with this kind of combination. Um, so this will be a great wedding, like Moon and Lugna. This will be a really great time. Um, you'll see, I talked about Saturn, so let me actually put Saturn here. Uh, let's say like Moon conjunct Saturn, right? You'll see that. Let me give something. Let's say Moon Saturn here, just in general. First, you'll see that um, someone there'll be a lot of cold food that's served at your venue. You'll see that people will be like, "Oh yeah, I remember." For example, they'll remember something like ice cream, or I don't know what other cold food like salads, for example. But they'll remember some of these colder foods that are served here, like especially colder beverages. People will be like, "Oh yeah, you had like really good beverages." If Rahu aspects, then they'll remember for all like the cold like alcoholic drinks. Um, but you'll see here, Moon Saturn, uh, people will say, they'll be like, oh, we remembered that they'll say they'll remember something about your coworker or somebody from your workplace doing something at your wedding. Like this will be remembered. Even if they don't even know like that coworker or that person, they'll remember it because whatever they're gonna do will be something that'll be remembered. Now, depending on what they do, will depend on the sign here. You know, if this is in Gemini, then they'll give a speech that everybody will remember. They'll give it an emotional speech that everybody remembers. Um, okay. So that's Sun and Moon. So let's go on to Mars. So Mars and Lugna. So with this, you'll see that people will talk about the location, like where you chose to have your wedding. Like, and this could be the venue, but this could also be like the actual like setting. Like, where is your venue located? Right? So people will talk about this. They'll be like, "Oh yeah, your venue is actually in a very good area." If this is aspected by something like Venus or Jupiter or something, then like a benefic, you'll see that they'll talk about and they'll say like, "Oh yeah, the location where you got married was very nice." For example, if this is like let's give like a lot of benefics here, like Moon, Mars, Venus, or like any one of these two guys could be here with Mars. You'll see that people will talk about and they'll be like, "Oh yeah, the like where you got located, that was a very beautiful area." Like for example, if Venus, let's say Venus, Moon, and Mars are there, you'll see that people will say that, "Oh yeah, like you'll get married and there'll be like water nearby." And people will say like, "Oh yeah, this was a very great location that you chose. You know, the soil was great. The landscaping was really well done. Like everything about like how this venue was formed was very well done here when benefics are connected. Um, you see if it's just like Venus or even if Mars goes in like Libra or even Taurus, you'll see that people will talk about and say that you know like the place that you chose is very good. Let's say that's Mars, and then like let's say Ketu here. And then you'll see that the location that you'll get married on, the venue, it won't be a full place, and it'll be very open. You'll see that, well, open in the sense that it won't be like fully like closed or complete. So you'll see that this a location like this could be something like a cliffside, where like the land isn't complete. It's not like a full flat land, and that, underneath the cliff is probably like, it's probably carved out, so something like this. And, there has to be a benefic that aspects this because these are two malefics in the Lugna. So, um, yeah, a benefic has to aspect this, for that to happen. Um, but yeah, you'll see that with this, right? Now, if malefics are aspecting this, you'll see that, especially like if Rahu aspects this, so if Rahu aspects this Mars, you'll see that there's going to be a fight at your wedding. Somebody's going to fight here, and it'll just be out of nowhere. And like the reason they get into this fight will depend on the sign here. You know, uh, let's say that let's say that Sagittarius here. So if let's say if Rahu aspects this, let's say Rahu aspects this, like this combination, then you'll see that there's going to be a fight about how the religious part of the ceremony is being done, like how the priest or pundit or whoever is doing this. There's going to be some kind of fight regarding this, and it's gonna like blow up because you'll see everybody will turn their heads to look at this. It won't just be like a quiet affair. Um, yeah, so that's if a malefic aspects this, right? You'll see that if like let's say Saturn aspects this, you'll see that let's say if like Saturn's like over here or something and aspects this, you'll see that people aren't happy. They won't be happy with the religious part of like here religious because Sagittarius, so they won't be happy with the religious part of the ceremony. Um, but and they'll probably just only complain about it. It might not get into full-fledged disputes, but they'll definitely complain about this. Um, yeah. Um, but so those are malefics, right? As well, let's say if we did just talk about K2, but let's say if K2 is here or aspects this, and there's not like a good sign here, let's say like that, you'll see that nobody's even going to talk about your your wedding. They're going to be like, "Oh, yeah, I barely remember this." Or they'll remember it for like the wrong reasons, you know. Um, but let's say that like benefics aspect this. Let's say like Venus, Moon, Mercury, people will also say that your wedding had just really great energy. So, if there's good science and, benefic planets, they'll say that, oh yeah, we were always moving, we were always doing things, but we had a really great time. Like there was a high energy, but the energy was great, right? So that's what they would say here, right? So let's move on. So that's Mars. Let's go on to Mercury. So with Mercury here, you'll see that um, your wedding, there's going to be a lot of people who give a speech value. Like a lot of people will be eager to talk or like to give a speech at your wedding. And it's because you'll see with this, people have a lot of like childhood stories or stories to tell about you during your um, at your wedding. So you'll see that, like, if benefics are here, like, let's say if benefics aspect is Mercury or um, there's like a benefic sign here, um, you'll see that uh, you'll see that people will also have like really fun stories to tell. You'll see that if Mercury's in like Gemini sign, for example, you'll see that they'll talk about their stories about their childhood, or maybe about like somehow they'll bring in like some books that they used to talk about, or like reading, or something to do with like how you guys used to play, right? Like you'll talk about like something about like the playgrounds that you guys used to be like playing on like as a kid. Somebody will give a speech and say uh, like these words while they're there. Um, so yeah, you'll see that as well. Like years after like your wedding is done, people like what people will talk about. They'll say that your wedding was really great because we got to meet everybody here. So they got to meet a lot of your family members. They had a really great time communicating and socializing. You'll see that's the core or main idea here is that people had a great time because they had a really good experience with socializing with the people that were there. So you'll see that's what will happen here at your wedding. It'll be very well remembered for that kind of stuff. You'll see that, and again here, the speech or whatever is being said here, like whatever will be talked about will depend on the sign and the planets that aspect. So let's put like Mercury in like Virgo here. You'll see that somebody will give a speech about either like a time when you guys were sick or when something about like medicines here will come up. Or this could be about a time it was just like, somebody will say like, oh yeah, one day I was helping out, my buddy, and then, so and so happened. Like they'll tell like a story about a time when you guys were doing some work. Now, this doesn't have to be like work at your job per se, but just you guys were helping out or doing something. And then you'll tell like an anecdote about this, right? You'll see if either Saturn sits with Mercury or if this is in Capricorn, you'll see that they'll talk about some stories about there'll be like a speech about your work, like your workplace, like your career, like what you actually do for work. So people will give a speech about this. Um, yeah, right. But you'll see that people will have a great time because they had really great connections and really great conversations on this day. Um, you'll see as well, um, on this day, let's say Mercury is in like the sign of Taurus, you'll see that people will be like, oh yeah, this is great because they had so many different types of food to choose from. Like you'll have like so many different options, and people will be like, oh yeah, this is great. There's options for, you know, uh, for these type of like vegan people, there's options for vegetarians, there's options like for meat, there's options for, you know, different types of bread or something, I don't know, right? So you'll see that there's so many like multiple, there's options for everybody, right? So that's Mercury. Um, so Mercury, let's go on to Venus. Um, so Venus here, what people will say about your wedding, um, is that your wedding was so beautifully done. Like, this is the compliment that you're going to hear time and time again is that though people be like, wow, your wedding was literally like a like a like a princess's wedding, or like this is what every like like 7-year-old girl like wished for. Like this is like their dream wedding because it had so many fancy things and it looked gorgeous, and like everybody was just blown away by how good everything looked, how great the decor was, how good all the tables, the chairs, the setup, the layout of everything, the flowers. Like people will definitely say something about the flowers on the day that you're married. They'll be like, wow, you guys had really extravagant flowers on the day that you were married. Um, so you'll see with Venus here, people will only have good things to say about your wedding, unless this is aspected by like a bunch of malefics. But otherwise, people will say that this is like a top-notch, like perfect wedding. Um, you'll see at your wedding too, you'll have like a lot of things that's like, oh, like people say like, oh, you had this thing here. Like that's super fancy, or like you had like a disco ball or something. Or if you have something like this, like Venus and Taurus, people will say like, wow, you had like really fancy food. So like for example, they could have something like a chocolate fountain, right? Like like that's really flashy, that's really something that's like, probably not necessary, but people would be like, wow, that's really cool. You had like this, or like you'll have something like really cool, like a station that makes waffles at your wedding. Like that'll just blow people's mind away. They'll be like, wow, no one expected, this or that type of food to be here, but they'll be like, that's super fancy. Like you'll go in all out with that. If this is in like if this is in Cancer, you'll see that people say like, "Wow, this venue is gorgeous. It's so well decorated, and the layout of this place is so well done. The shape of it is so great. Like they'll have so many compliments about the venue that you chose." Um, you'll see that um, you'll see that if this is in Sagittarius, you'll see that people will have a lot to say about the religious part of your ceremony. And people say like, "Oh yeah, the priest or pundit did like a really great job on their end. Like it was very like well done and it looked very well done. Everybody was invested. Like so you get compliments in that kind of way." Um, yeah, but generally Venus here, you'll be like your people even years later, people will still give you compliments on this wedding. Like that's how good your wedding will be here. Like uh people literally dream for weddings like this when Venus is there. Especially if you really want to like really up this, go for like Venus moon. If Venus moon is here, you're gonna have the best wedding of anybody that you know. Like literally every single person will be like, "Oh yeah, this you had the best wedding imaginable. There's nobody else whose wedding comes as close to as good as yours." You'll see that people remember it for like the different types of drinks that you had, or that there was like some water nearby, like your venue. Somehow there's some water or drinks or something uh, and people would be like, yeah, this is really top-notch stuff that you have here. So you'll get those compliments here. Um, you'll see that um, even honestly, even if Rahu is here, Venus Rahu, people will still compliment you and they'll still be like, oh yeah, like your wedding was great. They'll be like for example, if you're Indian, you'll have like a I don't know, like a Asian style wedding or something like this. You'll see that there'll be like Asian or like not Asian, but just like out of culture type of things at your wedding, like style or theming. And people would be like, that's very weird, man. But it still looked like gorgeous. It still worked out so well. They'll be like, I really didn't expect this stuff to be at your wedding, but this looks really awesome. Like people will still have like it'll be like out of the box things, but still people will give you compliments about how good. People especially give you compliments about the alcohol at your wedding. People will be like, "Wow, you have like some really like you'll have like a spot, if not a spot, like you'll have something where they'll have like really fancy cocktails, for example, or like really fancy like colorful drinks. See, like people will just be blown away by this. Um, yeah. Even if Venus is with Mars, people will definitely compliment like the location that you chose, because still like the land that you chose will be very beautiful. Even if people have to stand outside or whatever, like they'll say like, "Oh yeah, this is like really like the landscaping is really good. Like the spot that you chose will be very good." See, so like Venus here, like you'll just get all the compliments. Okay. So that's Venus. Let's go on to Jupiter. So here, when Jupiter is here, you'll see that the place that you got married, you'll see that um, and this is going to sound kind of just a little weird or a little strange, but you'll see that somewhere in your wedding, there's going to be symbolism of like an elephant. Either you'll see like there'll be like a logo or something of like an elephant's head or something like this, or you'll see like a elephant statues somewhere in the venue or like in the place that you chose, or even like maybe even let's say if this is in Taurus, you'll see that even the location that you chose or like the food that you chose, maybe the catering company has like something in there that has to do with like an elephant. Like their symbol could be like an elephant. So, you know, you'll see that. But generally what you'll see here, the venue or the place that you'll choose, it'll be very big. You'll see a very big like open space. like there'll be a lot of space, like, and people will say they'll be like, oh yeah, even if there were like a lot of people, they'll be like, yeah, there's still like plenty of room for everybody. They're like, man, I could have even invited like more and more friends to this wedding, and still like there would have been room for everybody. So you see, it'll be a very spacious place that you're getting married in. And you'll see that especially people remember the religious part of your wedding, like the parts that have to do with like the priest or pundits. People will remember this part of your wedding because it'll be so well done. It'll like that part will have the most memorable things. Like you'll see years later, people will be talking about. They'll be like, "Oh yeah, I remember when the priest did this or that." You know, um, and right, whatever the priest does, that will be remembered for different things depending on the sign or the planet here. So you'll see, for example, um, let's say if Jupiter is in either Gemini or with Mercury, so either one of these, you'll see that the priest or the pundit or whoever will be giving a speech that was very heartwarming, or he'll say something that really touches everybody. And you'll see that whatever, this uh, priest or whoever says, like whatever he says, it'll be remembered like years later. And people would be like, oh, yeah, yeah, what he said was really, amazing. Um, So yeah, people will remember the religious part of your ceremony. And what people will say is like people will say, "Oh yeah, you had a very traditional, very like what is it? Like to the standard. Like it won't be anything that's odd. Like it's as if you're following the every all the religious principles or um like your wedding went exactly like how people envision it. Like it went exactly like by the book. So you'll see that people will be like, "Oh yeah, your wedding was very traditional. This is how, people before used to do it as well." Um, and yeah, so people will remember it for like even though and that's not a bad thing, right? It's just saying that um what you did do, you know, like the old people are gonna love it. Like they're gonna be like, oh yeah, this is how weddings used to be back in my day, and this is still how it's being done. And people will be like, oh yeah, this is, you know, it'll still be very well received. Um, right? Everything will be done properly here. You'll see that even all the religious things that are done, they'll be done properly, and um all the like rituals and things that like need to be done, they'll all be done properly and there'll be like no problems with this. Um, Now you'll see that, um if there are malefics that aspect this, then there could be like some issues. For example, if Ketu and or Saturn aspect this Jupiter, you'll see that the priest may not show up or he may not do a certain part of the ritual. Like he may either like skip it or forget it, but you'll see that something like that will be missing. And this is what people will remember it. Um, will remember from your wedding, right? So yeah, you'll see that, let's say if Jupiter is in like um, um, is in Leo here. So you'll see that people will remember, like if this is like an Indian wedding, people will remember it for like the fire rituals that go on here. Anything that involves fire, like, in the Hindu community, they have like the Hawan, the fire ritual that goes on here. So people will remember that part of it. Um, and that part will go off like very well done. Um, Yeah, so you'll see that people with this, they'll say like, yeah, very, very good wedding. You did everything you're supposed to do. You didn't forget anything. Everything went according to plan. Um, and yeah, you'll see that in preparation for your wedding as well, there'll be a lot of people to help you. So you see, you won't be on your own here. Um, You'll have like other people who have had weddings before, or whatever, friends, family. People will help you with this wedding, so you'll have help here. Setting everything up, choosing a venue, doing all these things. Um, yeah. So you see, everybody will support you on this day. Okay. Let's go on to Saturn. So you see, when Saturn is here, first of all, not many people will even show up to your wedding in the first place. This is especially true if Saturn is in Scorpio. If Saturn's in Scorpio, Capricorn, or aspected by Ketu, you'll see that um, people, they won't even remember your wedding. They'll be like, I don't remember like much about what happened here. And you'll see even when Saturn's just alone, uh people will be like, man, this is this is taking a long time. Like it'll feel like work. Like when people have factory work like factory workers, they're just doing like the same thing like 500 times in a day, and then they just clock out, and they're just waiting for it to like finish. Like, this is how people are gonna feel at your wedding. They'll be like, man, you know, when are all these things gonna be done? Like if the Saturn is in a Sagittarius here, this is how people will feel with the religious part. Like the priest and stuff will be like very monotone, and people would be like, man, when is this guy gonna be done? You know? Um So people will be like, man, they're just gonna be waiting for the good part. Uh, and in some cases, the good part might be when it's done. Uh, right? Like if this is aspected by K2, then people would be like, man, when is this gonna be done? Um, but yeah, you'll see that as well. The other thing you'll see is that some of your coworker people will remember it for um either like your coworkers or something regarding your profession or your job. People remember it here. And people will remember it as well as in that, you worked very hard to get this wedding done. Like you had to do a lot of preparation and a lot of struggling to actually like it was like you worked a lot of hours and a lot amount of time was put into getting this thing done. So people remember it and be like, "Oh yeah, I remember you being like exhausted when doing this." So people remember that, you really did put like a lot of time and effort into doing this. Um, yeah, so let's say here, let's say if this is in Aquarius. So people will talk about how you'll say that there'll be talk about how much money you make from your job on the day of your wedding. So that will come up one way or another, and that could either be a good or bad thing. If Mercury is sitting here, then it's due to a speech. Somebody will give a speech, and they'll say that um, they'll give a speech and they'll talk about like your workplace and like work friends and like going to hang out like after work, right? So that's what they'll say if like Mercury is here. You'll see if yeah. So that's generally the essence that you'll get like at your wedding here. So let's move on to Rahu. So when Rahu is in the first house of your D9, you'll see that people would be like, wow, this is a very odd or different, a different style wedding. Like this will be very different than like a traditional wedding or what people expect of you. So, if people like expect like a very typical wedding, like what you see on TV or something like that, this will not be like that. You'll see that there'll be a lot of elements that'll be like from a different culture or that'll be like outside of the norm with this wedding. And people will remember that. They'll be like, "Oh yeah, your wedding was very unique, very out of the box." Um, So they'll say that, and you'll see that again. Like what is considered unique or different will depend on any planets aspecting or the signs. So you'll see that if Rahu Moon is here, you'll see that people will remember the alcoholic drinks that were at your wedding. People will be like, man, every kind of drink you had here was alcoholic. Even the water somehow had alcohol. They'll be like, now even the juice, all the juices had alcohol in it too. They'll be like, literally, just only the water was the only thing without alcohol. So you'll see that's what like people will say about this kind of stuff. They'll be like, oh, this is very like odd. Um, you'll see, let's say if Jupiter's here, the religious part of your ceremony uh will be done in a very odd manner. So you'll see that like let's say if it's like a Hindu wedding or something, you'll see that you'll get like an Asian guy or something to do it. Or you'll see that, people, let's say if people are expecting like a Hindu wedding or something, you'll see like a I don't know, like a Buddhist priest or like a Muslim priest or a Christian priest or like someone from like a different religion is coming to do this. So people would be very confused by this. They'll be like, what is this guy doing here? Like this is what people will say. If people have no idea, they'll be like, dude, I I don't know what you were thinking, but I guess it worked out. Like this is what people will say. Um, and let's say if like Venus is here, and people will say this about like the decor. People would be like, oh, um, people would be like, the decorations and uh, like how everything is set up. It looks very like strange. It looks very odd, strange, out of the box. Would be like, they'll be like, you know, I don't know why your decorations look like this, but for whatever reason, it still looks really good, man. Like this is what people will say, and um, yeah, it'll just catch people off guard. You'll see if, let's say, if this Rahu is in like Gemini or in a Mercury sign here, or with Mercury, you'll see somebody will give a speech at your wedding, and they're gonna go off on a tangent. Like this is gonna be a long speech too, and they're gonna go off on a tangent, and people are not gonna know what this guy is talking about. People are gonna be like, like, what was the point of this speech again? Like, what was he trying to say? Like, he's gonna go from one topic to another, and like these topics aren't even gonna be linked. They're gonna be completely unrelated. And you're gonna be like, is he just telling a bunch of mini stories that have like no climax or no like point to them? Is he just like, spitting out different stories for like no reason? And like this is what people are gonna say um with this. If Mercury is actually here, you'll see people will laugh at it. Like people will be laughing at this, which is good. People will remember and be like, "Oh yeah, I remember this one guy's speech because it made no sense, but it, just everyone was just laughing and had a great time." Like this is what people will say, right? So with the alcohol too, let's see if Saturn aspects this Rahu, um, or if let's say this is in like Taurus and Saturn is either here or aspects this combination, you'll see that something that's very prominent, somebody's gonna like throw up like at your wedding. And it'll be like everybody will see it or know about it. And they'll be like, "Oh yeah, like that's what I remember from your wedding." Um, so yeah, this Rahu could be like good or bad. And I wouldn't even say it's like bad per se. It's just very out of the box. It's just very unexpected things that happen at your wedding. Um, so that's Rahu. Let's put now the last one, Ketu. So Ketu here, you'll see with your wedding, it'll be like a very uh like the venue of this place will not be a complete closed place. You'll see that um either like the architecture won't be complete or there'll be some parts that are either like broken. If Saturn aspects this, then there'll be something that's uh like it'll be like a weak foundation for like the building that you chose. But you'll see generally people at this wedding, they won't even remember that it even happened. Like you'll see that people will often say it'd be like, "Oh, yeah, I forgot that you were married, first of all, and then I forgot you even had a wedding," you know? Um, like people won't remember too much about it. Like you'll tell them, they'll be like, "Oh, do you remember like the food at our wedding?" People will be like, "No." They'll be like, I don't remember anything that like happened." I'd be like, "I remember drinking water." But it's like no like people aren't gonna really remember this wedding. Now that could be either a good or bad thing. Maybe um but yeah, generally people, even if people, so let's say this. Let's say if there's like benefits here. Let's say if there is um let's say that Sagittarius. So you'll see that the religious part of your wedding, it'll go well. It'll be very spiritual in nature. And you'll see that even though it'll go well and like, everything, it'll, all that happens, people still won't even remember that. People won't even remember that there any part of this religious ceremony at all. If this K2 is in, Taurus here, people won't remember any of the food that you had. They'll be like, "Man, I don't remember eating." Or you'll see some people just didn't even eat at your wedding. Um, yeah. If let's say if this K2 is in Pisces, so you'll see that your wedding, it'll be very spiritually themed. And you'll see that your wedding won't be like a grand thing. Like it won't be like a huge like party per se. But you'll see that the people who do come will be people who are just very close to you. Like those are the only people who made it to your wedding. um, with this combination. But you'll see that there'll be a lot, like people will remember it because there would have been talks of a lot of like spiritual things like reincarnation or like spiritual topics like this, like heaven, for example, would be talked about. Like the other worlds could be talked about during this. Um, yeah, you'll see that Uh, yeah, something at your wedding will also be like missed or forgotten. Or like let's say that like you were supposed to do something at your wedding, but like either you forgot to do it or somehow it just didn't get done. For example, let like let's say that this happens in Gemini. You'll see that you were supposed to do some paperwork like related to like the marriage or wedding, and it either didn't get done properly the first time or something was missing in their paperwork the first time. Um, and so you'll see that something like this will happen um, with the wedding. Something was incomplete. That's what it was, and that depends on the sign here. Right? So, yeah. Um, yeah, and let's say if there's like benefits with this, like Venus or Moon, either one, with K2, you'll see that people will have a good time at your wedding, but still like they like in the moment they'll have like a really great time, but you'll see like after the wedding is done, like they won't remember too much about it. Like um, you know, if Mercury is here, you'll see that either people won't be talking that much at your wedding, or if they do talk afterwards, they won't even remember the conversations that you guys had here. Um, yeah, so that's K2. Now, if there are no planets in your in this first house, what you should do is look at the sign that is here in this first house. So you'll see that, let's say if the sign of Gemini is over here, then what you should do is you'll see that your wedding will be remembered for things like the socializing. People socialized a lot, or for like the speeches at your wedding. People will remember those kind of things, right? As well, you can look at the Lord. The Lord will also give you some clues. The other thing is you should look at any aspects that come onto this house, right? So, like for example, here. Um, let's say if the sign of Libra is here, you'll see that people will remember your wedding for all the decor and the decorations and how like lively the place was. Like they'll remember it for being like a really great celebration. And again, aspects from different planets will change this, right? Like if Mercury aspected this, you'll see people will somebody will say after your wedding, they'll say something like, "Oh yeah, people they'll say that people were talking about how gorgeous this place looked. Like, there will be a lot of talk about how great this place is. So that's what's generally like going to be around, right? So that's how you interpret these kind of things, right? So that's all your planets in first house. And if you like the video, please like and subscribe for more content like this. And if you're unsure, you can always leave your combinations in the comments below. Just remember, the more specific you are with your comment, the more that could be said about it, right? If you include all the aspects and all the planets here, then that'll give like a more precise idea of what's going on. Yeah, and thank you.